The first gimmick change I would do would be with Don West. Oh, excuse me. And what his gimmick would actually be would, instead of him just talking like he usually does, which usually sucks, is have him just swear a lot. Be like, AJ does a Pele kick, and Don West is like, "Oh my fucking god, did you see him kick his fucking head off? He's fucking bleeding everywhere, look at that shit." And so on and so forth. Back to drinking. Oh, no, that's the end of his gimmick change. Oh, fuck, it's cold. What was I talking about? Beer money. Beer. Beer money! Yeah, I wouldn't change the gimmick because I think the gimmick's really good, especially when fuck, it's cold. I'm not taking my arms out, especially when James Storm rode the Esky mobile down to the ring, and yeah, that's a good gimmick. But what I would have is every time they come to the ring or leave after a match, they whip the shit out of Don West, like really belt into him with with their belts. Because last time they did that, well, the first time they did, well, that was what got them over for me when they whipped Don West, and Don West ran like a fat pig, and the crowd stopped him or some shit like that. I can't exactly remember. He tried to run away, he got caught, and he was like, probably something like this. And yeah, got stuck and just looked like a fat piece of shit. Fucking cold. It's like 10 fucking degrees. And got caught like a fat piece of shit. And that's what their gimmick would be. Every time they come down to ringside, they just whip into him, and that's it. That's a modification to their gimmick. They just whip Don West a lot. And that's the next gimmick addition I'll do, is because Scott Steiner's so good on the mic, what you have him do, what you have him do is Don West gets whipped so severely each episode he has to go away, and every time that happens, Steiner comes over and replaces him on colour. So instead of having a swearing fat guy with a goatee, you have it's the same thing. Yeah, well, you got Scott Steiner, and like Samoa Joe comes to the ring, and he's like, "Who's the fat ass? Who's the half breed?" Instead of Don West going, "Oh my god, look at that shit." What next? WWE. Wait, was that it? Yeah, WWE. I wish they didn't fight Adam Lee because even though he sucked really bad, I was really entertained by his suckiness. But his gimmick for me would have been, or what I would have added to his gimmick would have been, every time he comes, does a thing, well, the first thing he said as general manager was, "How you doing, Dave?" When it was him, Batista, and Cena in the ring, and Cena looked at him and went, "What the fuck, you're the GM?" Batista looked at him and was like, "What the fuck, you're the GM?" And he's like, looked at Cena and then looked at Batista and was like, "How you doing, Dave?" Like, the most casual thing in the world. That's what I just had his gimmick be. He just says, "How you doing, Dave?" to everyone. Fucking mullet. He just says that to everyone. I look like a fucking ranger. Brown ranger. But yeah, that would be his gimmick. He just says, "How you doing, Dave?" to everyone. And Batista, I think his gimmick's getting a bit stale, so... and I've spoken with him about a friend, and it's a bit of a comedy gimmick, but I think, if you can give someone like Christopher Daniels in TNA comedy gimmick, and, well, that was pretty stupid anyway. Just give it to Batista, because no one gives a shit about him anyway, except for a bunch of wogs. Nothing wrong with being a wog, but there is something wrong with liking Batista, because he's a piece of crap. I'd have his gimmick changed to jazz-loving closet homosexual, so it, like, cuts to a backstage vignette. Oh, fuck, it's cold. And he's going, and then Mike Hanley comes in, and oh, it's cold. And then Mike Hanley comes in, and he's like, "How you doing, Dave?" And Dave's like, "Good." And he does the whole hand thing, and then we can like circle it, in photos and say, "Uh oh, somebody's fabulous." And then, like when somebody, you can have him feud with Edge, and then have Edge bring up his homosexuality. Ooh, and then have Edge bring up his homosexuality, and oh, jeez, that was a homosexual throw. And have Edge bring up his homosexuality. What the fuck's that on my feet? Oh, nothing. Then have Edge bring up his homosexuality, and and Edge will, Batista will be like, and shakes the ropes, and that'll be how he hops up instead of getting beaten down for 20 minutes like Hulk Hogan did. He gets called a homosexual and flips his shit, and yeah, wins matches. Any other gimmick changes for anybody? I like the Crazy Ref in TNA, but he doesn't need a gimmick change. Charles Robinson on SmackDown, Little H. Every time he comes to the ring, he should sprint to the ring with his own entrance music. Or that fat guy who did it at WrestleMania 23. Whenever refs, they do that thing, the ref running to the ring, it's just, it's so good. But now onto matches, because it says written there on my screen, talk about gimmick matches. Gimmick matches, first gimmick match I'd have, and these are basically all for TNA. These are all reverse gimmick matches. First reverse gimmick would be the reverse match. So the first person to get pinned, or it's actually called the reverse pinfall match, but the first person to get pinned loses. Simple concept. You know, you just get the guy on top of you and you get the ref to count to 3 while the other guy's, mounting you all. He just needs to touch you, I guess, so you could, fucking scream. So you could just knock him out. And then, lay his arm on you and you go, oh, fuck, no. Oh, yes. You'd be... Like, the other guys would be, pulling you up. No! And then the next gimmick match would be the reverse submission match. And the way this would work is basically the same way, but you got to tap out. So they just got to touch you when you tap out, like Chavo and Stevie Ray in WCW. Went to Shake's head. Oh, tapped out. That was brilliant. And that's where I got the idea. The next match would be the reverse DQ match. And, the two guys, it would be more difficult than the pin or submission match, especially the submission match, because you've really got to, if they move out of the way of the chair, because I've always gotten angry, like a ref will go, hey, you can't bring in a chair, and if they miss with it, then it's like, oh, it's okay, you missed, so I'll let you off. But if you did hit him with it, then you're disqualified. I mean, the intent should be enough to disqualify the guy, I guess. But, no, so I thought, well, if that's the case, why not turn it into a reverse match? So it's a reverse DQ match, so you got to get yourself DQ'd to win. My next one is probably my second best. It's the reverse fans revenge match, so it's really the wrestler's revenge match. So you get a fan and you get a wrestler in the ring together, and you get a fan and a wrestler in a ring, and you have a bunch of wrestlers around the ring with straps, and they whip the fan whenever he gets knocked out by the wrestler who's beaten the Christ out of him. Sound good? Does to me. Alright. Next match. Fucking cold. Next match would be the reverse death match, where it's a ladder match, and you've got to get the gun off the top of the ladder and kill yourself. Participants I recommend for this would be Mike Adamle, Vince Russo. Oh, maybe not Mike Adamle because he's got a family, and he seems like a nice guy. But Vince Russo, even though he seems like a nice guy, but he's just a shit booker. I don't know, people who are depressed. There's Kevin Nash, so you got Kevin Nash versus Vince Russo in a reverse death match, and the winner is the first person to kill himself. And because TNA has this habit of they have a good gimmick and then they not change the finish, but the finish is the unexpected one on the first shot. What I would have is someone pulls the gun down, the gun drops, and the other guy gets it, but he goes to fire it, but it jams, so the other guy puts his head in the ring like they do and hangs himself, like Kevin Nash, or kicks the ladder out from underneath himself, and he's like, Gah! And his tongue's hanging out and shit. I should probably stop making videos now. Oh, not making videos, but, I should stop drinking. I will.